giving a chance, obviously, can be translated in so many ways. And the formation of a government is one test, one criteria that the international community is going to use in the days to come to see what kind of mindset the Taliban are in. Do they think that they can have the whole cake and eat it too, or are they willing to share the Afghan political and power cake with other stakeholders who matter in Afghanistan? So I think that that is a test, but at the same time, the formation of a government could have different layers. We do not know exactly at this point if the government is just going to be an executive branch appointment system, or is it going to also include a leadership shura, which has been talked about, but not as much as the government. There are two different entities. So I think in the next few days, maybe 3-4 days, we will have more transparency on this. Well, remains to be seen. Up to now, they have shown some tolerance in terms of, for example, the media being still active and somewhat free, even though there are some fears that exist within the media. You can feel it. They're talking about the fact that women can go to work whenever these conditions are ready, that young girls can go to school or the university. But Sharia itself, when we talk about Sharia, that's Islamic law. Islamic law has obviously is a complex issue that the Taliban think they are an expert in it. Other Muslim Islamic groups, ranging from moderate to maybe more extreme groups, can offer you different interpretations at times. But obviously, at the end of the day, it's the Taliban who have to convince the Afghan people, and it's the Afghan people who have to embrace the interpretations and the rules and behaviors that the Taliban want to adopt from now on. It cannot be a one-way street. It all depends on how strong Daesh or ISKP is. We hear different assessments about ISKP. At one point, 3-4 years ago, they were somewhat strong, maybe up to 1,500, 2,000 people in northern and eastern Afghanistan. That capacity has been reduced over time. The Taliban have actually been a cause of that reduction. They have gone after ISKP, and ISKP has gone after the Taliban. They have had major clashes. The Taliban have usually been stronger. So I think that dynamic is going to continue. There are other affiliates or other type of terrorist groups that are roaming around Afghanistan too, but at this point they seem to be quiet, maybe under the radar, waiting to see what happens, because the Taliban obviously are in control of 90-something% of the country. Well, that diplomatic mission now has to be redefined based on what decisions are taken in Kabul. I think the burden of proof now is on the Taliban and on other Afghan leaders who may or may not be part of a new government arrangement that is being discussed right now. There are talks going on in Kandahar amongst Taliban themselves, because it seems like they may have differences of opinion on the road forward. And there are obviously talks going on in Kabul. But as was said by my friend in Kabul, the challenges are numerous. They are heavy and require fast action. The Afghan people expect it. The region and the international community also are waiting to see what the Taliban and others do next. The resistance in Panjshir, if that is what you're alluding to, is, I think, a homegrown, organic resistance that is trying to convey a message. The message is very clear. Afghanistan cannot be run by just one faction. It is a country that has diversity, and you need to take the diversity into account. And obviously they have some specific demands that I think should be dealt with over time. I think what they need to do is diffuse the situation with some decisions that are immediate, but over time they can discuss things that have to do with structure and political order and rights and so on and so forth, as do other Afghans with the Taliban. But as far as the overall situation is concerned, I think that people are looking for, after all these years, are looking for some level of stability and peace, and obviously they want their lives to have meaning and their livelihoods to be taken care of. People do not want to face economic hardship from now on. Well, the role of the region and the neighboring countries is going to be very, very important, in my opinion. I think not only do they have relationships with the Taliban, as we have seen, the Pakistanis, of course, the Iranians, the Russians, the Chinese, all have had long-standing relations for the past 3-4 years with the Taliban. And so the Taliban, including even countries like Qatar, and maybe even Turkey down the road. I think that the Taliban are looking at the region from a very different perspective. They pay attention to it. They know it's important. They may have other views about the rest of the international community at this point, but they want and they need good relations with everybody, not only in terms of assistance, funding, and issues that they share with the region, but also because they don't want to be diverted, their attention diverted by issues that are non-Afghan. They want to focus on internal matters to the extent possible. Well, again, that depends mostly on the Taliban, and I think on how they behave, what steps they take, what decisions they make about the political order, about people's rights, about being a good member of the international community, as it's called, and adhering to international norms. I think all of that will be looked at very carefully by countries such as the United States, and I don't see any reason why at some point, if they do what's supposed to be done, that others will engage in a more normal fashion.